Okay, so today we're going to talk about word problems or application problems using slope-intercept form. So here are some steps, and you may need to fill the blanks in on your note sheet. But step one, you're going to define variables. So the variables, this is sometimes the hardest part, defining variables for some people. But just like a piece of advice, a variable is something that can change, and you're defining these in words. So you're writing down like in words, what does X mean and what does Y mean? And to kind of figure out what that X and Y is, it's like I said, something that could change. Step two, you're writing an equation and you're using Y equals mx plus b to write that equation. And again, I would jot down these notes that I'm writing here along with on your note sheet just to kind of give you some help. Step three, you're going to solve the equation. And then step four, you're going to answer the question. As a general rule of thumb, the y-intercept, or in other words, like the b value, is always the starting amount. Remember, b, we begin at b. So it's what we begin with. And then the slope, the m, is the rate of change. And the rate of change, a lot of times we use the word per, for, each, and every to represent that we're talking about a rate of change. So, you're driving at 10 miles per hour. T-shirts cost $12 per t-shirt, or $15 for every t-shirt that you buy. So when you see something like that, that tells you that's your M, that's your slope. All right, so after you're done writing all this down, let's jump into an example problem. So a television production company charges a basic fee of $4,000 and then $2,000 per hour when filming a commercial. So, step one, or letter A, identify my variables. What are the things that could change in this situation? If I'm filming a commercial, or if you're filming a commercial, how could it be different between your commercial and my commercial? Well, we could both use different amounts of times, or in other words, the number of hours that we film could be different. And then also, if the number of hours is different, the total cost would be different for each commercial. So we've talked about independent and dependent variables before, and we always say that your X variable is your independent and your Y variable is your dependent variable. So in this case, which one affects the other? The number of hours is going to affect the total cost. So the number of hours is your X and the total cost is your Y. X is the independent variable and that affects the dependent variable Y. So now we're going to write an equation to model the situation. So we have two numbers. We're using y equals mx plus b. And I have two numbers that I have here to fill in for either m or b. But remember, b is what we begin with. So they tell me that they charge a basic fee of $4,000. That's what everyone begins with. That's no matter how long my commercial is, that's what you begin with. That's what you start with. That's what everyone has to pay. And then they charge $2,000 per hour. There's that keyword per hour. Remember, per, for, each, every. That's going to tell me that that's my slope. So my equation is going to be y equals 2,000 x plus 4,000. Now, part C, find the production costs if 4 hours of filming are needed. So 4 hours. I need to think about going back to my variables, X and Y. 4 hours. X is the number of hours. So that's telling me that X is 4. I need to find Y. So I'm going to take my equation. I'm going to plug in 4 for X right there and then solve for Y. So it's going to be Y is equal to 2,000 times 4 plus 4,000. Now, 2,000 times 4 is 8,000 plus 4,000. Now I'm going to add this, and you should be using your calculator here, but I get 12,000. So remember, Y is the total cost. So now I'm going to state my answer in words. What does this mean? It costs $12,000 to film for how long? We went for 4 hours. All right, you just did your first word problem. Good job. Okay, let's try another one. So one of your friends hires a dating coach to help them find a date for the homecoming dance. The dating coach costs $30 for the initial meeting and $10 for each meeting after. Okay, so identify the variables. What could change? Well, one person might only need a little bit of help, but one person might need a ton of help, right? So the variables, the things that could change in this situation are the number of meetings that you have with the coach. And then the other thing that changes is the total cost. So the number of meetings is going to affect the total cost that you pay. So number of meetings is independent, total cost is dependent. Now we need to write an equation to model the situation. So $30, $10. What do we begin with? Everyone has to begin with the initial meeting, so that $30 is your B value. And then $10 for each meeting, right? Each meeting. Remember, per, each, every, for. So it's Y equals 10x plus 30. That's my equation. Now in part C, it says, when will it cost your friend $120 to work with the dating coach? We'll go back and look at your variables up here. $120, is that a number of meetings or is it a total cost? So $120 is a total cost. So I have to plug in $120 for Y now. So I'm going to take my equation and plug in 120 for Y equals 10x plus 30, right? Now I need to solve for X. So we have 120 equals 10x plus 30. I need to get X by itself. I'm going to subtract the 30 from both sides. You're going to use your calculator. 120 minus 30 is 90. 90 equals 10x, and then this means 10 times x, right? So we're going to divide both sides by 10. X equals 9. Well, what does this mean in words? It means your friend pays $120 for 9 meetings, right? Use your variables, use your X and your Y to help you. Okay, let's try another one. So Justin Bieber has 120 text messages on his phone. Every day he gets 15 more. Define variables and write an equation to model this situation. So every day he gets 15 more text messages, right? So one variable is the number of text messages that he has. And the other one, the other variable, this might be a little tricky, but they're saying every day he gets more. So it's the number of days. And in this case, the independent variable is the number of days because the number of text messages depends on how many days have gone by. So the number of text messages depend on how many days have gone by. All right, y equals mx plus b. Where does he begin? Where does he start at? He starts at 120 messages, and every day he gets 15 more. So per each, every 4, right? This is your m. So your equation is y is equal to 15x plus 120. And now when will the Beebs have 250 text messages? So think about, is that going in for X or is it going in for Y? X was number of days, but this is 250 text messages. So Y is text messages, so it's going in for Y. So it'll be 250 equals 15x plus 120. So that's my equation. Now you have to solve for X, right? Use your calculator. Think about how we would solve this equation for X. We're going to subtract 120 from both sides, and we get 130 equals 15x. And then use your calculator to decide, to solve and divide. So when I divide both sides by 15, I get a decimal. I get 8.666 or 8.7. And that's okay. It's a number of days. Days don't have to be like whole numbers, you know. I could get text for 1.5 days, right? So the Beebs has 250 texts after 8.67 days. So that's your answer to that one. Okay. All right. I want you to pause the video here, and I want you to see if you can try this one on your own, defining variables, writing equations, and then answering part B. I want you to try this on your own, and then when you're done, unpause it, and I am going to go through the whole thing so you can check it. So pause it now and try it. Okay, let's go over this. So Taylor Swift has 514 pictures on her phone. Each month, she deletes 21. So define variables. So we're concerned with like the number of pictures. That's what's changing, right? She's deleting 21 pictures. That's what's changing. So it's the number of pictures. And what else? Well, it says each month. So months are going by, right? So it's the number of months. And the pictures, number of pictures she has depend on how many months have gone by. So this is Y and this is X. So now I have my variables. I'm thinking about my equation. How many does she begin with? Her B. She begins with that number, right? And then each month, so this is her M, but let's think about this. She's actually deleting pictures. So her slope is actually negative. This one's tricky. It's negative 21x plus 514. Because she starts with 514, but we're taking away every month. So that's why that slope would be negative. Okay, so how many pictures will T Swift have on her phone after 14 months? Let's plug in 14 months is at an X. It's a number of months, right? So Y is equal to negative 21 times 14 plus 514. So I'm going to use my calculator. I'm typing in negative 21 times 14, and I get negative 294. And now I'm adding negative 294 plus 514. Let me type that in, and I get 220. So Y is the number of pictures. So T Swift has 220 pictures after 14 months. All right. Yes, she does, right? She's shaking her head. Okay. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.